Oh, hello, hello, and happy Wednesday. Can you believe it already? It's my favorite day of the week for obvious reasons. Yes, hello, everyone. It is great to see you all. I'm just double checking my phone, as always.
For obvious reasons.
Yes, there I
Yes,
am.
hello.
Lovely that I should be live to Janome Canada's Facebook page. Janome America's Facebook page is Janome Sewing Machines. And then the Janome HQ YouTube channel is now the Janome Canada YouTube channel. We rebranded as the new name. We still have our older Janome Canada YouTube channel. It's now called Janome Canada Archives. So we've now renamed Janome HQ Janome Canada, so it's easier for you all to find these videos. And then, yes, I'm going live to the Janome America YouTube channel. So anywhere to share the Janome love. So, yes, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome Canada. Oh, lovely. And I see already I've got many people here. Oh, from Miami. I hope it is good weather there. We woke up to snow today here at my palatial estate in Collingwood, about 2 hours north of Toronto. But again, luckily, we're getting some sunshine and it's melting. We're so ready for spring. It's wonderful. But as I always say, regardless of the weather, just stay inside and sew. Oh, lovely. And Sandra Gilmer's here. Wonderful. It's great to see you all. So, yes, I am back to share with you another edition of the Janome Serger School. You can go on the Janome Canada YouTube channel. I have a whole playlist there with many little videos on the various sergers Janome has in their lineup. And certainly you can see more tips and tricks, threading, suggestions, anything to do with sergers there. So yes, let me flip around as always. I have lots to share and the time will go by so fast. So here we go. I've got my fabulous FA4 serger here, standing for free arm, my FA4. And then, yes, our fabulous AT2000D air thread serger. Again, we have, oh, lovely. It's lovely to be here live. Thank you. Yes, that it is wonderful to have any of our Janome sergers. There's a number in the line. They all have a little more bells and whistles as you go up the line, but they all will pretty much do everything that I have been demonstrating so far. Doesn't matter the price point, doesn't matter how advanced the serger is, they will, almost all of them will do all of these techniques. So today we're going to go through some more advanced techniques, and where I left off last week was talking about gathering. Now, do you remember when, again, we can do our serger so much more than just regular, again, finishing the edges is what we're all familiar with the serger, but we can do so much more. So gathering, any of us garment sewists, especially when I studied fashion design, even all those years ago, we still were sewing two parallel lines of long basting threads, and we were pulling the threads, and we were hoping and praying that that thread would not break as we were gathering up our fabric. Now, if we had a little bit of gathering needed to, set in a sleeve cap, for example, that's not too much gathering. But if you wanted to gather up a whole pleated, full skirt or curtains or ruffles around a pillow, this is how we always did it. And again, heaven forbid if that thread broke. Well, forget that. Nobody's got time for that. Instead, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? All even, consistent. Again, this could be on a sleeve cap as a short little sleeve, for a dress. Like, wouldn't that be cute as a sleeve cap? Just fold it over. This could be, again, if we're not a garment sewer, sergers are more than just for garments. This could be a ruffle around a pillow. Or what about the edges of a quilt? This could be on ruffle on a costume, skating costumes, or as I had this beautiful girl, this beautiful woman last week showing again that rolled hem done on the serger. Well, then boom, wrap this around. Well, there's a cute little skirt for Barbie. Like, again, how simple these adjustments are made on our serger. We just have to do a couple of little adjustments. So here I have my left needle in position. I could be using my right as well, and I could actually be using, for this gathering technique, I could be using both needles if I chose. Instead, I just have the left needle in play, so I have removed the right needle, which conveniently is sitting here in our Janome manual needle threader. It comes with some sergers. It comes with our Cover Pro machines as well. If your machine did not come with this, it's available separately from our Janome dealers. Again, there's that little wire that'll help poke the the thread through the eye of the needle. But it's also great. It holds the needle. So I've removed my right needle. I keep it in here. I know where it is when it's coming time to set that needle in place again. Again, it just helps act as a third hand as I undo that screw, and it'll help push this needle all the way up where I need it and then tighten the screw. So again, for this gathering technique, I could use left or right or both, but I'm using the left. So with my left needle here in play, I want to turn up this tension. I always remember when people ask, which way do I turn my tensions? I always think of up tight. If I'm all stressed and I'm all up tight, then I want to turn this tension up to a higher number. In this case, I'm going to go up to a number 8. If I wanted lower tensions, we're typically at about a 3 or 4 for most sergers is our average tension. If I wanted less tension, I would be down low or down loose. So then I would go down to, again, all the way down to 0 is no tension. But again, in this case, I'm going to turn up to 8 for my needle tension. Then if I had my right needle in play, I would also increase that to an 8. In this case, again, I don't have a right needle, so I'm not even going to bother. But if I did, that would be at number 8 as well. The upper looper can be set at 3 or 4. I'll just tighten it up slightly. And then our lower looper, again, could be 3 or 4. I'll just tighten that up just a little bit here. And then our stitch length. Now here in the FA4, it's very convenient. We have the dials here at the side, but the indicator is here on the front of the screen, front of the machine. I really love that. We don't have to crane our neck around to see the numbers here. So we want our stitch length. We're typically serging at a 2 or a 3 in most cases. I'm going to turn it all the way up. It goes up to a number 5. So I'm going to turn that all the way up. The more stitch length, the longer the stitches, the more gathering you're going to get. You just play an experiment. Differential feed, normally this is set at 1.0 for most fabrics, but in this case I want to turn up that differential feed as high as it'll go. In this case, it'll go to 2.2. So more differential feed. So that's the only adjustments I need to do. And then I have my fabric here. Again, this could be for garments. This could be for home deck. And all I'm going to do, I do have my knife blade engaged. Look right away, like I'm sewing slower, just so you can see. Our sergers are generally about 1,300 stitches per minute. So again, that's a lot faster than most regular sewing machines. That's another plus to a serger. So again, look at how much that gathered. So here is one sample, and you see the rate of gathering. Look at how much. Look at that, the difference. This is where you need to cut yourself a bunch of strips, whatever size you want. Cut a bunch of strips the same size. Let's say it's 20 inches. And you experiment with your stitch length and the rate of differential feed. That's going to be contributing to how much this is going to gather. So you just experiment. And of course, this is a thicker fabric, a more dense, like a twill weave fabric. more dense, then this is just this lightweight, very flimsy fabric. So naturally, this fabric, the lighter, flimsier fabric, is going to gather more than this more sturdy weight fabric. But again, it's so beautiful. This is especially for those thicker, more dense fabric. You could even do this with denim, to gather denim. Do you want to pull those 2 strings through denim? I know I don't. Look at that, how wonderful that is. So again, you cut your strips the same size, and then you experiment. Well, maybe now I'm not going to do quite as long a stitch length, so I have it down at 3. And maybe now I'm not going to do that 2.2 differential feed. I'll go down to, 1.7. It'll go down to 1.5. I do want to increase it more than the regular 1. And the differential feed, it's like a different rate, basically, that it's feeding in that fabric. So if we just need slight gathers, we don't want anything too much, turn down your stitch length and turn down the differential feed. Do you see there? My strips were the same size, but the one on the top I did with a 4 stitch length, or a 4 or 5 stitch length. And then the differential feed was set at 2.2. This, I set the stitch length at 3 and differential feed was 1.7. So look, that's a couple of inches just by that simple adjustment. So you can make gathering, or look at that. What a gorgeous skirt that would be for Barbie. Again, any rate you want it, it works out so well. So that is gathering. All done in your serger, so easy to do. Now, things when we finish off this beautiful box corners, look at how beautiful those are. Many times as we're using our serger, look how beautiful that is, all beautifully finished. Many times people are asking, when I use my serger, you know, how do I finish off these edges? Look at all those strings. So now I'll show you some little tips on how to make this all beautiful. Now, when we're doing just a square like this, we can make it extra accurate and beautiful. We can start just by, in this case, I have my knife blade engaged. We can start by trimming off this edge. But when I get to this corner, I want to actually take my fabric off the stitch fingers and pivot it like we pivot on our sewing machine. And then I'm going to start serging down this edge. So to make that easier, what I've done is just make this little notch with my 4-inch mini duckbill scissors here. You just make this little notch. So when I pivot my corner, my stitches are going to form right on this edge, and then I'm going to start cutting down here. So I've eliminated this little corner. It'll make it less bulkier and easier to trim. Again, I'm going to go ahead to my next corner, and I'm just going to cut off. It's about maybe 1 inch, and it's only about, about 1/4 of an inch in depth. It really depends on your seam allowance, but again, on average, about 1/4 of an inch. I just make that little notch. And same thing, I will turn and pivot. I'll trim down here. And then again, I want to remove this little corner. So it'll just make it easier to turn the corner and make it less bulky. There'll be no bulk. There'll be no extra threads. It'll all finish beautifully as it is here. So what we will do is, again, I'll get started. So when we start, we don't need to trim it at all. We just put it in. Now let's go back to, I'll go back to my regular, I've got everything at 3. I'm going to set my differential feed back to 1. I'll do my stitch length. Oh, I don't want to do it 2. I'll do it like to 2. So what I'm going to do now is just start serging. And then you'll see as I get to this edge, I'm coming off my fabric. I'm about to come off the fabric. Now, this is going to be a little tricky for you all to see because, again, I can't get in too close zooming in because my phone goes weird. One of these days, I'm going to get a better setup so that I can have a camera right here. So what I'm doing now is I'm rotating the balance wheel by hand. I'm rotating the balance wheel by hand. And what I'm trying to do, I'm going to try to get in and show you all my fabric. I'm going to get to the edge of my fabric, and I'm going to take I've gone to the edge of the fabric. I don't know if you can see the metal underneath, right where my seam ripper is. What I'm going to do is now raise my foot, and I'm just going to wiggle this fabric off the stitch finger. I'm going to take all the threads off the stitch finger. And again, it's a little hard for you to see because that upper looper is in place. So what I have done is, oh, I've just got to turn my tripod. What I have done is to show you this blow up photo here. So here is our serger. This is the knife blade. Here is the stitch finger. This is the retractable stitch finger. When we set for a rolled hem, this is the stitch finger that disappears. These other stitch fingers stay in place. Again, our threads wrap around it. The looper threads wrap around these stitch fingers to keep it all nice and even. This is the retractable stitch finger, and then this is my upper looper right here. So I'm pointing with my seam ripper here in this case too. There is the stitch finger. So what we're doing is I'm wiggling my thread off that stitch finger because now I want to pivot the corner. So this photo shows there the stitch finger. Do you see? Now it's R. It's to rolled hem. It's been retracted. Normally it sits at this little notch, and then again that stitch finger would be here. Here is my knife blade again. There are those two other little stitch fingers. The retractable stitch finger is gone. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm not retracting the stitch finger in this case. Again, I'm just trying to get that thread off the stitch finger. So now I can pivot my fabric. So you maybe can see by having that little notch cut out in my fabric, then I can get my fabric butted up against the knife blade, but I'm not going to get up this big bulky corner. So I'm just positioning, going back to the beginning. The edge of my fabric here is going to be where my needles start. Newspapers. Oh, I don't know what that, oh, I think that's to the wrong group. Okay. Or a velvet scrunchie. Yes, that would be, oh, a wonderful scrunchie with your gathering. Yes, when we're doing pivoting, what I like to do is just pull on your looper threads in particular. I've got my lower looper, my upper looper, and then my needle thread. I just give it a little tug because what we've done is created a little bit of slack in our thread by moving it off the stitch finger. So then if you just give it a little pull, it'll go back to being taut. So now I am positioning my needle right in the edge of that fabric, and then I can continue serging. So you need to do this a couple of times to really get the hang of it. Your instruction manual actually goes over this. I believe every instruction manual goes over this. So let's just turn the balance wheel by hand right to the edge of that fabric. Get your needles up out of the fabric. This is where it does differ from our sewing machine. We can't pivot with the needle in the fabric, and we can't pivot with that thread around the stitch finger. We've got to remove the fabric and the thread from the stitch finger. And then again, I'm just going to pull here on my looper threads, and then there is my needle thread. I'm just going to pull that taut. So then we can go back to stitch. And again, this is going to start right at the edge of the fabric. So this is how we can turn these corners Now, I won't continue. I think you get the idea because, again, time goes by so fast. So, again, this is how we can turn the corner so beautifully. Look, to turn the corner so beautifully, and it stays a nice, sharp corner. And it works out really good. Again, you just have to notch where you're going to turn. One edge is normal, and then you serge at, and then all your other edges that you notch, all your other corners. So one corner is not notched when you get started, and your other corners are notched. And then again, it turns out so beautiful. So beautiful. So that is how you can finish your outside corners and finish the edge of your how these corners again are all finished, so you don't end up with that long string. I'm going to show you eventually when you get around to the end, you will have a long string, and I'm going to show you in just a minute how to finish that off. So that is your outside corner technique. When we have a circle, yes, we can serge in a circle, and our threads there, you can see that build up of them overlapping, but this turned out beautifully. And we do that same kind of thing. Here is our circle, but you'll notice I've taken this big chunk out of it. I'm going to start serging here on this edge. This edge will be butted up to my knife blade. My knife is going to start cutting this little lip off. So again, it works out so easily. Like, this is considered an advanced serger technique. Does it seem that advanced to you? Well, no, it's really simple, but you just have to understand the logistics of it. When I'm doing a circle, as I do with my sewing machine, you see I use my fingers here like a fulcrum. I've got a little notch on our looper cover here. I believe all of our looper covers have these little convenient notches to indicate our various seam allowances. So I'm aligning my edge of my fabric with that little notch in my looper cover, and I'm just using my fingers as, whoops, I'm just using my fingers as a fulcrum. So I'm just spinning around. So it makes it really easy. I do this on my sewing machine as well. It makes it really easy to spin around, and it's staying perfectly accurate. Now, as again, I'm about to come up there, and you see by having that little notch of fabric cut out, I'm going to be able to butt my stitches, overlap my stitches. I took off that little string from where I started, and then now I can just run right off the edge. Again, convenient side thread cutter. And then we would just have to finish this thread off. But again, how perfect is that? I overlapped it perfectly, and it came out a perfect circle. I give this a little press, and it's going to be perfect. So there's with a more narrow, that's using my right needle. It's a more narrow seam, that's using my left needle. So you see it's a little wider. You could use either in this case too, right or left. So that is for circles. Now, how about, oh, we did an outside corner. How about an inside corner? How in the world are we going to serge to make this L shape? Well, what we're going to do is make a little notch. I emphasize the word little. Our 4-inch mini duckling scissors work perfect for this. A little notch. Again, about 1/4 of an inch, whatever your seam allowance is. Ultimately, we're just going to make a little notch. Not too deep, not more than the seam allowance, whatever it is. If it's a 5/8 inch seam allowance, we're going to trim almost to 5/8 of an inch, because I want to make like a little hinge. Instead of a L shape now that I have 90 degrees, we're just going to cut it and make make this a straight line, basically. So again, I can just go along, and then it looks like, oh, you're going to get this weird little pleat. Well, no, I'm not at all, but I'm making my L shape. I'm making it a straight line by doing that little notch. But when I finish it, boom, do you see how perfect that is? That is a true 90 degrees. Like, that is beautiful. That is so beautiful. Like, so simple to do. Again, this is considered an advanced technique. You just make a little notch, whatever your seam allowance is, and you make it a straight line. Boom, it's done. Isn't that so simple? There is another sample. Isn't that so simple? Beautifully finished. So simple. And all I did was just that little knot. I didn't adjust my serger at all. I just made a little notch. And same with, again, the circle technique. I didn't adjust the serger. I just made the notch in the fabric. My outside corners, I didn't adjust the serger at all. I just notched the fabric. So simple. Now, when we talk about finishing these edges, what we can do, there's a couple of different ways, but one way I find is the easiest to do. Trim away some of this. We don't need this long thread tail. But what I do, I take a tapestry needle or an upholstery needle. This one is upholstery. It's got this little lip on it, this little point, or then they're a tapestry needle. They're generally blunt ends, like a rug hooking needle would work as well, with a big eye and generally a blunt end, because this way we're going to use that tip of the needle and we're going to pick apart our serger chain. So then we're going to isolate the individual threads. So we just pull the chain apart very quickly and simply. So we just get individual, there we go. We just get individual strands of threads. So then what we can do very easily is knot these all together. We unpick the chain right to the edge of the seam. And then again, I'm just knotting all, in this case, I had 4 threads in play. So I'm just knotting them really close to the edge of my seam there. And then I trim with my mini duckbill scissors. If you wanted, you could put a little drop of seam sealant right here as well. But that's how we could finish it off, again, very beautifully. There's no long ravelly seams. It's not going to pull apart or anything. That's a really simple, easy way that we can finish it. We can unpick it and then tie it. Or another way I love to do, we take our long chain using these, again, tapestry needles or the upholstery needles, that we use the big eye of the needle and we thread this chain through, whoops, we thread the serger chain through this big eye. And it's simple to do when you don't have a camera in front of you and the pressure of live. But you pull this through. Oh, you pull this through. I swear. Oh boy. I swear it's easy. Let me pull this up a little closer where I can actually thread it. So you pull this through. There we go. I just needed to pull it nearer me. We pull there through the eye of the needle. And then from the back side, the side we're not going to see, we can poke this tapestry needle, again, this upholstery needle, through the chain. You see, I'm going through the chain. I'm not pulling any stitches, but it's through the chain. And then there I can trim that off and it stays perfectly tucked in under there. You barely notice that extra little buildup of stitches, but it finishes off on that corner beautifully. So that's another way with, again, your tapestry needle, your upholstery needle. That works out great. So another technique, and I have to really fly because of course time goes by so quickly. So another technique that I absolutely love doing on the serger is a blanket stitch. Now, we're finally almost done winter, although we did have snow here today. This is just a hunk of polar fleece. I had this little hunk left over. You know, you always end up with these little long rectangles of fabric left over, and all I did was just finish this beautiful, it looks almost like a hand blanket stitch, but instead it was done on the serger. In this case, it was done with metallic thread. So isn't that cool? Or again, here is a big wool Melton. Wool is my favorite fabric. And look at that beautiful red contrasting blanket stitching, all done beautifully on the serger. I finished off my corners just by burying the thread, just as I showed you. The corners look beautiful, and it was just a hunk of wool Melton. Now, last week when I did this lettuce edge, again, this was just a hunk of a long rectangle of knit fabric left over. What am I going to do with it? I didn't even cut it. I just did that lettuce edge. Like, scarves are so easy to make on the serger. And what this serger blanket stitch is, it is so fun. So here, if you could see in the pink, is the blanket stitch. There is on the back. Look at all that gorgeous metallic-y thread. The fun thing of our sergers, we can use a variety, especially in our loopers, lower looper and upper looper. Again, they go around the fabric. They don't go through the fabric. They go around it. So this is like floss. It is quite thick. It wouldn't go through the needle, but it'll go in the looper beautifully. Here in my AT2000D, I've got this beautiful textured, glossy thread, metallic-y thread, but it's quite thick. It's at least a 28 or a 30 weight. So again, it doesn't really want to go through the needle. It'll go through the looper. Again, thread is weird in that the thicker the thread, the lower the number, the thinner the thread, the higher the number. So again, in my looper here, and this floss, oh, it's got to be at least a 28 or a 30 weight. I don't know if it tells me. It doesn't tell me, but it's thick. So for this serger blanket stitch, simple adjustments to our serger. We can use any thread we want in our looper. I love using, again, these thicker threads to add more pizzazz, but any thread in the looper is fine. We're not going to use, so that's our lower looper. We're not going to use our upper looper. That's going to be completely bypassed. So I've cut my thread off. We're not going to use the right needle. So I've removed the right needle. And again, we could keep it in our little Janome needle threader. We're going to use the left needle here. Now in the left needle, you may be able to see, I do have a very thick thread. It's actually a 12 weight thread. A 12 weight thread, which again, in our size 14 needles, we can use 11. Your serger will tell you, use a size 11 or 14 needle in our serger. So here with the size the 12 thread, I use a size 14 in the needle, a thicker thread in the needle. We must use that thick thread in the needle. Doesn't matter what we use in the looper, but the thick thread in the needle will make all the difference in this serger blanket stitch. I have bypassed with green painter's tape. Green painter's tape is your friend. I have bypassed the thread tension by, it's not enough just to change it to 0. We want to make sure we have no thread in there at all. So I have bypassed it. I've just taped over the upper thread tension here. So green painter's tape. So I've threaded my needle just as always, except it's not going through the tensions. This is when, because of the thicker thread, you definitely want to use your manual Janome needle threader to thread that thick thread. And what we're going to do, though, the next part of the recipe is, again, we're using 2 threads. So not all Janome sergers are capable of doing 2 threads. This is definitely a more advanced technique. So double check your instruction manual. Can your serger go down to 2 threads? In this case, for my AT2000D, again, here is my lower looper threaded. My upper looper is not threaded at all, but I need something to plug this upper looper to kind of trick the machine into thinking it's threaded. With the AT2000D comes this little tool. It looks kind of like our manual Janome needle threader in that part of this tool will hold my needle. That's great for my right needle, but it's got this other little nub here. And what this is, specific to the AT2000D, there is a built-in spreader, as it's called, right here that's attached to the upper looper. And I'm going to use this little tool. There's a little hole right here. And I'm going to use this tool to swing this spreader around. And it's going to plug, there's a little hook. And it's just going to plug the hole of the upper looper. And you'll hear it just click into play. I want to, oops, get rid of that thread off my upper looper. And then boom, it's just going to click into position. There we go. Just click it in to bypass the upper looper. Now here on the FA4, we don't have a built-in spreader, but this is what comes with the FA4, and you'll see that little hook on it. This goes over our upper looper, and it just, whoops, it just clicks in. There we go. This just goes in our upper, oh, again, these get so fiddly to demonstrate. There we go. I'll clip my upper looper. So this just goes in to the upper looper. There's a little notch there for it. And again, slides in, and then this little hook is going to go in, and it's going to plug that hole. So see if your machine comes with either a little spreader, or in the AT2000D, it's already built in. We just swing it over, click it into place. So that is done. So for sure, I have that clicked into place. Yes. So in which case, my serger is set up, ready to go. I do like to lengthen my stitch long. In this case, I'll do number 5. Differential feeds at 1. I'm not adjusting that at all. My lower looper tension is still set at 3 as normal. But again, the main secret is that we have bypassed the needle tension. And then now we're using that thicker thread in the needle. And the last part of our secret, water-soluble stabilizer. Who knew we would use that with our serger? I just get the stabilizer started, and then I can get my fabric under here. Now, the cool thing is, we see as I'm doing this, and again, I'm just trimming off a little bit of my stabilizer. As I'm doing this, you'll see, look at that beautiful metallic looper thread. Isn't that gorgeous? Doesn't look like a blanket stitch. When I look on the other side, I get this kind of zigzaggy stitch. Well, that doesn't look like much. The secret, again, this water-soluble stabilizer on top, and why we used that thick thread in the needle. We're using this water-soluble stabilizer to pull. Do you see that right before your eyes? Was it worth me taking extra time to explain this? Yes. I purposely don't try to take extra time. It just happens. But there we go. Look at that. Beautiful, consistent. There is no way you could do that by hand so consistently. And then we just rip the water-soluble stabilizer away. We can use this again. Again, I'm just going to trim this. This is so fun. This is where, again, oh, I could spend all day doing this. Get your water-soluble stabilizer started. Just go on, trim down. It's so easy. Pull with your stabilizer. Look at that. And you just make it like a little hinge, or like you're opening a book. And then you just remove it. So this water-soluble stabilizer, you just keep putting till there's nothing. You just keep using it until there's nothing. When you have a little extra, don't throw anything away. You put it in a spray bottle, you add some water to it, and now it becomes like your own liquid stabilizer to beef up your fabrics, help get out wrinkles, make it beautiful. And again, this way I could finish off my threads. I could unpick these and tie them as I did, or again, I could thread up that tapestry needle is generally what I do the most. And then I just thread it back through. So maybe you can't really see too much here, can you, of that buildup? I did right through there. It's just a little bit. And then again, apply a little seam sealant if you wish. But there, the corners turn out so beautifully. So again, there is your serger blanket stitch. Isn't that gorgeous? And what you do with your recipe cards, as I mentioned last week, you make yourself this whole little cheat sheet here, because then again, you're never going to remember all of this. Or then what you do as well, you take a binder with your page protectors, and I have all these various techniques in there we go. I have all these various techniques. So I have here, there was my 3-thread overcast, and there was my 4-thread, for example. And I write down all the tensions of what I do and how I adjust my machine. So I do this whole little binder with, again, page protectors. Here's my little set of cheat sheets where I've written out all what I'm going to do, how I'm adjusting my machine, and that way you have no guesswork when it's time to do like your serger blanket stitch or your gathering, for example. That way you can use your serger for so much more than just finishing the raw edges of fabric. So, as always, I've gone over my time because there is so much we can do with our sergers. Next week, I'm going to share with you, there's a ton of accessories and extra feet that we can get for our sergers so we can get more from our machines. That's one reason why we all love Janome. There's always more. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye.